Hey everyone, happy Saturday. This is Helene from Virtual Vegfest, and we are powered by the Plant Based Network. I want to say thank you to our game for being our sponsor this week of our lives, and also to Follow Your Heart and Hodo Foods and Crafters Organics, and plus our game for donating monthly prize packs to Virtual Vegfest that we can give to you, which is pretty awesome. How do you win those prize packs? Well, go to our Rafflecopter. How can you find that? You can go onto the Plant Based Network Facebook page and go to the little drop down screen that says Rafflecopter. You can go to the posts that are on our social media, Triangle Veg Fest, Virtual Veg Fest, Plant Based Network, and click on the link that says want to win a prize pack. It's the best way to do it. Hey, Nouse, I'm so glad you're here. And so that's how you win prizes. And of course, go to Virtual Veg Fest and shop our vendors. That would be unbelievable because you know what? You support all these small businesses to help them get through this pandemic. And, there's not a lot of places to shop now because we're in the middle of a pandemic. We have Geoff Palmer today. And I just spent like the last 20 minutes talking with him. And I am upset that I didn't listen to him speak live when I emceed in Nashville and introduced him because he's he's going to blow your minds. That's all I have to say to you. If you have any questions or comments while we're live, put them in the little comments and reactions box and we'll be sure to get to all of them. I'm going to go grab Geoff and bring him on so we can start and you can learn. Hey Geoff, how are you?
Hey, good. Good to see you again.
I know. I'm super excited. Like I'm always excited about our talks, but you have me so revved up based on what we were just talking about. I could have just not gone live and we could have just sat here and spoken about like everything that you were saying. But I want everyone else to learn from you. So let's start out with for you to tell people who you are, what you do, what is Clean Machine, vegan bodybuilding. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for having a great format and a virtual format that is safe and for everybody during these times. And hopefully, everybody out there is doing your best to take good care of yourself, keep your health. Yeah, my name is Geoff Palmer. I'm the CEO and founder of Clean Machine. And the reason I named my company Clean Machine is because I had a very personal experience that got me to transform and really clean up my life. I went from uh, chronic depression, suicidal depression, attempting to take my life twice, to having such a breakthrough that I quit smoking, quit drinking, quit doing drugs, and quit eating all animal products all in one day and never looked back. And that was almost 36 years ago. And so I've been vegan for 35 years. And I have been looking for ways to help support other people keep their machine clean. I am all about the plant-based health and fitness because I believe that's two of the same thing. For our body to be in its optimal health, we need definitely rest and fresh water and positive environment. But physically, we need motion, which is fitness or exercise to some degree, and proper nutrition. So I had such transformational experiences after going vegan. I was, with Buddhist monks, and I was with Native American shamans and doing practices all over the world. 48 countries I traveled to, learning from different cultures on how they created change within inside themselves. I was doing a sweat lodge, which is a Native American practice, where you superheat a small area and it causes this outpouring of sweat. But that is a physical response of outpouring. And what I experienced is also because we are a whole being, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, that when you cause one part of the body to dramatically shift, in this case, dramatically releasing water in the form of sweat, that there is a release that the rest of the body, the rest of the parts of our self want to empathize with. And I started having an emotional release and tears just poured down. And I started having mental release of old attachments just falling away. And it was a very powerful and transformational experience for me. And I said, okay, how can I help other people have a more transformational experience? Because so many of us, myself included, I was entrenched in old ways of thinking. And, I was a compassionate person looking at the world saying, this place kind of sucks. It's hard. It's people are takers. People are aggressive. And I didn't feel comfortable in it. I didn't feel like I had a place here. And I said, okay, well, it wasn't until I had a transformation when I turned that equation around and said, okay, maybe it's not what I'm here to get, but it's what I'm here to give. And when I turned that around and started giving what I felt I had the good to offer, the empowerment came. That feeling of joy came back to my life. My depression dissolved away. And it really allowed me to focus on, okay, how can I help other people gain this type of transformational experience? So I said, okay, what is it, the thing that most people do in today? We all move, we have to, and we all eat. All right, well, let's start there. If I can get people to improve what they put in their mouth, their nutrition, and if I can help people find the value in exercise, these two physical changes can help people experience what optimal health feels like and hopefully inspire them to keep going, to keep on that path of, wow, I feel really good that this food really made me change. And then because I was a biopsych major in college and reading studies and research all the time, I said, all right, well, let's look at what's going on actually at a chemical level inside our bodies, our physiology. And I was studying in college this interesting chemical that was a serotonin inhibitor. It actually blocked serotonin from being active in our brains. And I said, what is that chemical? And I found out it was a chemical released when we kill animals. So when you kill an animal, it is in a fear state. So in its fear state, the animal releases chemicals that block its ability to feel happy or feel calm or feel safe. That is serotonin. That is that nurture chemical that makes it feel good about ourselves. That is our happiness chemical, right? So when they release that fear, that adrenaline that is all released when they're under that, those chemicals get released. And when we consume them, we're consuming literal chemicals of fear for life or fight or flight. And that inhibits our body's ability to utilize serotonin. You literally take on the emotion of the animal that you killed at death. Now, this was fascinating to me because now, I had studied different cultures, and karma was one of the tenets of some cultures, and that there is a cause and effect. But I was seeing in chemistry and physiology that there is literally a transference of experience from a dead animal to the person consuming them. Now, I looked at just the opposite and I said, okay, where is serotonin produced in our body, right? And it's produced almost entirely, 70 to 90%, depending on the studies that you're looking at, are produced in the gut. Okay, how are they produced? Up to 90% of the receptors for serotonin is actually linked via vagus nerve to our brain for serotonin. And sure enough, the fiber is what these bacteria that produce serotonin do. So the more fiber or plants we eat, the more we're producing serotonin, the more serotonin makes us happy. So quite literally, I knew intuitively when I had a breakthrough of moving from depression to happiness, I naturally gravitated to foods that helped me actually produce more serotonin, that helped me produce more happy chemicals. Now, what does the opposite, right? Those bacteria only feed on two things, three things really, technically: polyphenols, fiber, and fructooligosaccharides or polysaccharides. Okay, all of those come only from plants and a little from mother's milk when you're breastfed. But only plants as an adult, right? A weaned adult. So here we are. We can choose the plant foods that feed our bacteria that produce serotonin and make us happy, or we can choose animal foods, which when you put an animal food in our gut, it produces more bile because it's harder for us to break down. So our liver produces bile in order to break down these things. Well, a bile environment creates bad bacteria. Bad bacteria thrive in bile. Good bacteria die in bile. So every time you're eating an animal, you're not only ingesting the chemicals that block serotonin, you're reducing your body's ability to have more bacteria that produce the serotonin. So you are naturally bringing down the good bacteria and increasing bad bacteria every time you eat an animal product. And that directly affects how you feel, directly affects your emotional, mental, and spiritual state. Here it is chemically. I was looking at these different concepts of how I can improve my life. And here I was being fascinated by these. Now, of course, my professors didn't talk about this at all. I had to extrapolate this information, right? And translate it. And I said, okay, well, here's an opportunity for me to get out into public and share some of this translated scientific information to the layperson, to the every person, to persons who want to understand, hey, wait, I'm making this choice because it feels right. But here's something for your brain to make you believe that it's right, because here it is right out there in science. We have the hard facts now that we understand how it actually works, that yes, we were right all along. So I really was out to then say, well, if I know in my heart of hearts, my compassionate self knows this is right, my environmental self knows this is right, my health self knows this is right, it's got to be right on all levels. I just need to find the research and the science that shows that to be true. So every time I hear somebody say, the protein thing, oh, animal protein is superior to plant protein, which is not. And we now know that. And we now multiple reasons why it's not. Or vitamin K1, which you and I were talking about, which is found in plants, and that animals have vitamin K2. And this assumption that we don't get enough vitamin K2 as vegans. We now know through science just the opposite is true, that vegans can actually get more on a proper whole food plant-based diet, can get more vitamin K2 than those consuming animal products. And I can explain that. So any interjection or questions before I go on? Because I want to jump into the K1, K2 one, because it's a fascinating piece.
So, regarding like the sweat lodge thing,
Yes.
I've done that.
Oh, cool.
I did it in Cozumel in Mexico in the middle of the jungle. And
Nice.
I understand. Well, there was like this really hot man who was kept feeding the fire and he was shirtless. That helped. But it was absolutely an incredible experience. There were drums in there. So
Yeah,
you just kind of let go. You
it
just
is.
and you sweat and you don't even it's incredible. My feet were up. It was this little hut thing. So I can totally relate. Anyone who has a chance to do that, please do. It is a spiritual, emotional, physical, like incredible experience. One of my most favorite experiences I've done in my life actually. I want to ask you how old you are.
I am 58 years of age.
Right. You look absolutely incredible for
Thanks.
58 years of age. And that's not even going into the fact that you're being a bodybuilder, which we haven't even touched on at all. So I'm incredibly curious about this K1, K2 thing and why it's important. So I'm just going to say, just keep going. Because I'm sure a lot of people are going, why haven't we heard of K1? Why K2? Why is this not like, where's my supplement? Like, okay, go for it.
Yeah, so there are some nutrients that those espousing an omnivore diet will say, okay, wait a minute. Oh, thank you. That animal products have K2. So, okay, let's explain what vitamin K is necessary for. Vitamin K goes into our body and helps stimulate the production of the bone fibers. There's fibers inside our bone. So if our bone was just straight bone and hollow, it'd break really easy. But since there's fibers in it, those fibers are actually stimulated for growth by vitamin K2. And it's those fibers, like a lattice inside of our bones, that give our bones the strength so they don't break. So people low in vitamin K have a higher propensity of bone breaks. So we see that all animals have the vitamin K2 as well as K1. Our body needs both vitamin K1 and K2. So what is the difference between K1 and K2? So K1 is found mostly in plants, and then K2 is found mostly in animal products. Now, why is that? Because animals, just like human beings, can convert vitamin K1 to K2 from like a cow will eat plants and then convert that vitamin K1 into K2 for its own personal needs. Now, they need both vitamin K1 and K2, but what the things we're saying is that, okay, when they looked in the digestive tract in the studies, they said, okay, this is the bacteria that actually converts vitamin K1 into K2, all right? Okay, when they measured that in omnivores, those eating a mix of animal and plant-based diets, they found that there was a very small amount of that bacteria that converted K1 to K2. So they made this assumption based on omnivores, their observation of omnivores, those eating animal products. They made the assumption that, okay, nobody then has enough to convert enough vitamin K2. Well, it wasn't until they actually looked at vegans or those only on a plant-based diet did they see that the microbiome actually changed. When you change to a plant-based diet, what happens? Well, first, let's take a look at that bacteria that changes vitamin K1 into K2. And it was, remember, in a small amount. What happens is they feed on fiber. So what if you feed it more fiber? It grows, right? It multiplies. As a matter of fact, if you feed it a lot of fiber, it grows a lot and multiplies a lot. Well, if you're consuming fiber, that is plants. Plants like dark greens, high in fiber, also high in vitamin K1. As a matter of fact, our protein right here is made on based on a green called lentine. We'll talk about that in a little while. Is actually has 1,100% in a single scoop. 1,100. That's 11 times all the vitamin K that your body needs, but it's in K1. So the thing is, whoa, but that's K1, our body needs K2. Well, because it's also loaded with fiber, that's 35% of your daily fiber in there. That fiber feeds the bacteria, which then multiplies, and now you have a bunch of bacteria that do the conversion of K1 to K2. So this is how eating a whole food plant-based diet can actually yield even higher amounts of vitamin K than those consuming actual animal products. That's amazing. So this assumption was based on only research looking at non-vegans or non-plant-based diets and not looking at those because the microbiome shifts. Basically, the microbiota, the probiotics that live in our gut, the healthy ones, the good guys, they feed on fiber, polyphenols, and oligosaccharides, like I said. These all come from plants. The more you feed them, the greater diversity and greater number that we have of them. And then they produce metabolites that have health benefits even far beyond that. So this is the way we can look at the research, and it's not just about what you intake, it's about how it's digested and reformed and put into our system. Let's talk protein for a second, because some people think that, let's tackle the complete protein myth. All right, that plant products are not complete proteins. Actually, all plant products are complete proteins. The myth was that they were lower in certain amino acids, so they assumed these are incomplete, right? We now know that lower amount of those specific amino acids, two in particular, called cysteine and methionine. Cysteine and methionine are sulfur-based amino acids. They're very low in plants, very high in animals. We now know that methionine, one of these two, cysteine and methionine can back convert to each other. So they're interdisposable. Our bodies can convert it to cysteine, homocysteine, then back to methionine. So these two amino acids found in high amounts in animals and lower amounts in plants is actually a good thing. It's not, we're not getting enough methionine. I want you at home, anybody listening to this, type in the words in Google, methionine dependent cancer. There are about 24 forms of cancer, including breast cancer, prostate cancer, some of the major cancers. These cancer cells feed on methionine. The higher your intake of methionine, the higher your risk for cancers. You are actually feeding cancer cells and feeding cancer growth the more you eat a methionine rich diet. So much so, scientists have actually figured out that if you just remove the methionine from your diet, you can wipe out cancer cells, kill them, wipe them out, starve them to death. If you don't give them a food supply, they can't live, period. And this is what plants are doing. That's why there is such a greater risk of cancer, because you're not actually feeding them and making them grow. That's why animal proteins are so much worse. Methionine and cysteine can also convert into homocysteine. Homocysteine is a metabolite. Once it gets into our bloodstream, it converts into homocysteine, a crystalline formula that can scratch up the insides of our arteries. This is called scarring of our arteries, and what our body does is stick some fat and cholesterol to it, act as a Band-Aid. But if you keep scratching and keep Band-Aiding, what you do is close that artery. That's a heart attack or a stroke. Do you see how consuming high amounts of methionine and cysteine lead to heart attacks, stroke, cancer? There's a great Harvard study, if you want to look it up, on sulfur amino acids and the direct correlation of how they contribute to a higher risk of heart attack, stroke, and cancer. It's right there in the protein itself. Not only the anti-cancer effects of the high polyphenols, the chlorophyll, the antioxidants, all the benefits that are only the fiber, these are only found in the plants. The anti-cancer agents are found in the plants. The cancer-causing agents are in the animal protein itself. That's why protein is not just protein. There is a very big difference of how it metabolizes and what it does to your body, what it feeds and supports cancer, heart attack, strokes, or what it actually helps fight against. And that's what the plant proteins, why plant proteins are better. Yes, I will say that. Plant proteins are better than animal proteins. Better for your health, better for the planet, and God knows it's better for the over 1 trillion animals that are killed every year. So, yeah, we can go to omega-3. Let's jump into omega-3. This is a big one. This one, there's not even many of the vegan doctors talk about yet. Although Dr. Clapper, look him up. He's one of my favorite doctors, a personal friend of mine. Definitely look him up because he's beginning to also talk about these things too. Okay, so how many of you know what omega-3s are, right? Omega-3 is important for the brain health, important for EPA, good for heart health. Most people don't even know that EPA is actually very important in muscle protein synthesis too. So great for physical exercise as well. But everybody thinks when you say omega-3s, EPA and DHA. Well, those are actually only 2 of the 6 omega-3s that are responsible for our overall health. So a major study just came out last year that showed our body goes in one direction. It starts with ALA, only found in plants, to SDA, again, only found in plants, then to ETA, then EPA. That is the 4th step down the ladder. And then DPA, and then DHA. So DHA is at the very bottom of the bucket. So think of pouring water at the top, and each level can convert down to D. So every omega-3 can convert down to DHA, but this study said DHA does not back convert upwards. The chain only converts one direction, from ALA SDA, ETA, EPA, and then all the way down to DHA. So if you're taking number 4 on the ladder and number 6 on the ladder, you're not getting 1, 2, or 3 at all. And that's exactly what you're getting when you take an EPA, DPA, DHA supplement or any animal product that contains omega-3. You're only getting 2 out of the 6 omega-3s. Okay, so then I found another study that says, all right, why is that important? Well, Dr. Clapper actually talks about this important study that says what happens is our body converts some of that in our bloodstream, but the rest of the conversion actually happens in our tissues. So we've been measuring omega-3s in our blood and assuming, oh, we're too low in omega-3s, when most of that conversion is actually happening inside the tissues. Not up to 80% is happening in the tissues, not in the bloodstream. So we're measuring the blood saying, oh, you're too low in omega-3s, especially for vegans, because all that is being transferred to the proper sources. But let's get back to that omega-3 chain. So are those top 3 omegas, are they important? ALA, which is only found in plants, SDA, ETA, only from plants. Are they important? So this was amazing. A study came out that looked at, okay, let's look at ALA, SDA, and ETA. Now, ALA and SDA can both convert to ETA, so they just looked at ALA and SDA and said, okay, let's look at those 2. So they looked at omnivores and they found 0 ETA in their bloodstream, which would make sense because they're not eating the plants that have those omega-3s. They're eating animal products or fish oil. So you're not getting any of that. So there is none there. So they found none in there. What was interesting, though, is they said, okay, well, let's look at the data on brain. And what they found was that those with the highest amounts of ETA, SDA, and ALA, the first 3 on the omega-3 conversion rate, only found in plants. Those with higher amounts of those 3 omega-3s had higher IQs. Not only that, they preserved more gray brain matter all the way through to death. Preserved more of your actual brain. So there's brain shrinkage, which happens when we age. But those people with the highest amounts of these 3 omega-3s that are only found in plants had more actual brain matter by the time they were dead. More capabilities, less chance of Alzheimer's, less chance of senile dementia, less chance of losing brain function and brain capacity. That's important. And that's telling me that our body is genetically predispositioned for plant omega-3s, which only ALA, SDA, and ETA can be provided through plants. So this tells me through the research that not only are plants as good as the omega-3s, that they are actually superior to fish oil. So let's put this fish oil myth to bed, because if you want to keep your brain faculties all the way through your life, you are going to be better served by giving them all of the omega-3s only found in plants. And that all of those omega-3s can convert downwards. Now, they were saying, oh, wait, but ALA only converts like 3% to DHA. It's because they were only measuring it in the blood. Only about 20% of the conversion happens enzymatically in the blood. The rest of it is metabolized in the tissues. And this makes more sense. When you grab an omega-3 and your body needs, I need ALA here, I need SDA here, I need some DHA over here in the brain, I need some ETA over here in the brain, I need some EPA by the heart and the muscle. Well, it's not going to do all the conversion all the way down to DHA, because remember, it's at the bottom of the ladder. Once it's DHA, it can't go anywhere. It can't back convert to any of the rest of the omega-3s. Why on earth would our body convert it down to the last conversion? That just makes no sense whatsoever. Of course, it's going to keep it up here and not convert it until it gets to the right tissue and then metabolize it down to the proper omega-3 form that tissue needs. we have been looking at this the whole wrong way and making assumptions based on observations about it. A really great study called the EPIC cohort, the Norfolk EPIC cohort, looked at vegans, and they found the highest amounts of DHA were actually in vegans. And they found that something interesting happened. When you change your diet to a plant-based diet, a epigenetic switch happens where am I still here?
Yep.
Still connected?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. All right. Seems like we got a picture freeze a little bit. Okay. So this study actually showed, and the researchers comment on this and said the best conversion of ALA to DHA happened in those who did not eat fish. Why is that? Well, when you introduce something in its preformed state into our body says, oh, I must have made that, so I'm going to cut off the enzymes because I don't need to produce any more. So our body actually turns off a gene that produces the enzyme that causes that conversion. So every time, and this is why I strongly suggest that people reconsider taking algae, EPA, and DHA, because you are introducing EPA and DHA only. Remember, you're not getting the top three. You are introducing it in its preformed state. The body assumes it must have converted that and then turns off the gene that produces the enzymes that allows you to convert your ALA even more. So you're turning off your body's ability to convert that ALA to the proper forms. You are actually interfering with your body's natural process to properly metabolize omega-3s. I would never take an algae or fish oil, for God's sake, because I'm vegan for 36 years, but I would never take an algae oil supplement because, and I hate this about science, that we assumed that animal products were better, so we look for plant products that mimic the animal products. And I'm like, why are you doing that? The animal products are wrong. Why you are trying to copy something that is detrimental to our health? So much so that that enzyme gets turned off, that if you put DHA in a high amount in our body, it turns off the enzyme to convert EPA so much that EPA starts building up, so much that could potentially be toxic. Now, there's some debate about this. Dr. Clapper talks a little bit about this too. But EPA overload could potentially be harmful to us. We're not positive on this yet, because we haven't studied it in full. But we do know it piles up. It's because with all that DHA down here, the body turns off the gene that would normally convert the enzyme that would normally convert EPA to DHA. So everything starts to pile up. It stops right at the EPA. Well, that excess EPA could potentially be toxic to us. There is some research out there that shows excess EPA could be damaging to prostate. Now, why would you take an omega-3 to try to help improve your overall health when it could potentially be doing harm to your health? Why would you take an omega-3 that is based on replicating what animals produce instead of replicating what plants do? Our body is genetically predisposed to optimally utilize plant-based omega-3s, not animal-based or algae-based omega-3s. Now, this is amazing research, and it needs to be shared with people. So I hope those of you out there listening, if this resonates with you, if you see the research and you feel that, please share this information, because there are a lot of vegans out there taking an algae supplement. And my concern is for people's health. And I want you to be that. But I also go out and find the best plants in the plant kingdom that do deliver on the health benefits that plants can. And that's why I was the first person to bring ahi flower to market. It is the highest in ALA and SDA. Remember, those top two omega-3s. It is the highest in ALA and SDA of any plant in the world, any plant known so far. And the research on it is so amazing. It showed it was 400% more effective than flax, which is the number one most used omega-3 by vegans. and 4 times more effective, higher in ALA and SDA than any plant in the world. This was the best source of plant-based omega-3 or omega-3s, period. And and here we are with it. So we got the NEXTY Award, which is the top supplement award in the United States, given out at the top trade show in the world for supplements. So it's awarded the best supplement of the year. And very proud of that. Proud to be the very first person in the world to bring that to market, because I'm doing the research on this, because I'm understanding both the physiology and then going out there and finding the plants, doing the research to find the plants that actually have the best potential to bring health to you. That's why I brought ahi flour to market. The next, I wanted a protein. When I looked at the plant protein market, a lot of people said, hey, you've been in business as a plant protein supplement company. Why don't you have a plant protein? And I didn't like what I saw in the plant protein market. Most of the plant proteins in the market today are copying or trying to copy animal proteins, unfortunately. So what they do is they use pea and rice protein, and they take that protein and they strip out all the beneficial parts of it, the fiber, the micronutrients, all that, and you have an isolated protein. Well, we now know that fiber plays a very important role in our body's ability to metabolize that protein. The chlorophyll, the enzymes, the things. So I was looking for a whole food protein that did that. But in order to do that, it would, one, be in its natural green state, and two, it would have to be so high in protein that I could use the whole plant and would still be a reasonable amount of protein, 20 grams of protein, which is what's in most plant proteins. And I was fortunate to find that. This amazing plant called lentine. It is, a proper name of it is Lemna minor or Wolfia. And it is a small flowering water plant that lives right on the surface of the water. It is the highest in protein out of all the plant proteins that we use for protein sources right now. Up to 55, even 60% protein in its protein content in its natural state. So phenomenal amount. But not only that, it's higher in nutrient density, higher in fiber and omega-3s and micronutrients and macronutrients than any other plant we know of, even higher than moringa, spirulina, chlorella, kale, spinach, all of the super greens. So it's the number one superfood on the planet and the number one source of plant protein on the planet, which is phenomenal for a plant. That we're talking a true whole plant. We take the root, the stem, the flower, the leaf, everything, the whole plant, and just press the water, and then it's low heat dried to preserve it in its state. What's cool about this is we later found out that lentine also takes the bacteria out of the water and sucks it up into its root system. This bacteria produces B12. So it's the first plant in its whole food state that actually contains bioactive B12. That's right, B12 inside of a plant. Boom, another myth busted. What would normally happen, right? A plant that grows in the ground, what normally happens is you've got the roots of the plant hanging down. Well, the plant requires microbes in the soil to have a codependent relationship with them, interdependent, a symbiotic relationship. So the plant actually sends amino acids and sugars down its root system into the dirt to feed the microbes. And the microbes in turn digest up some of the micronutrients that are in the soil and make them bioavailable to the plant. So the plant feeds the microbes and the microbes feed the plant. And in that symbiotic relationship, some of the plants find it so important that they bring the microbes all the way up into the root of the plant and create little mini condos for they're called nodules. And they store these microbes in there so that they can absorb some of the nutrients out of the soil, have the soil chew them up, poop out some the proper way. And what they do is the plant feeds the microbes what it needs to survive, and the microbes end up converting that soil and pooping out some nice B12. Yeah, B12 is micro poop. But it's a good one, and it's very necessary for our health, overall health. So the first plant with bioactive B12, the highest in nutrition, the highest in protein, higher in fiber, prebiotic, 20% of its prebiotic fiber, feeding our things, higher in polyphenols than almost any other plant. Not only that, it's grown on water. 98% of that water is squeezed out and returned to the tanks. So it's the lowest water crop use of any food crop on the planet. It is near zero carbon footprint. So it's the most ecologically advanced. We actually won the Eco Excellence Award for clean green protein with lentin. Shameless plug there, but that's it. And look, to be honest, if one of my favorite shows is Star Trek, and in Star Trek they did away with money, right? You just do what you love, and all your needs are taken care of. I would love that. To be honest, I hate sales. I can't stand sales, but I do like bringing things to market that people wouldn't otherwise have access to. And in fair exchange, we turn around and donate 10% of everything we purchase to plant-based organizations and nonprofits. So every quarter we do a 10% give back. And as a matter of fact, every time someone purchases clean green protein with lentin, 2 plant-based meals are fed to hungry children around the world. So we are paying it forward in every possible way. We also donate 3% to Elephant Aid for every single purchase that comes to our credit card. And we sponsor the first and only completely vegan, you can see the t-shirt above me, vegan bodybuilding championship in the world. It's 100% vegan, only vegans come in, and natural vegans. And you can see some of my awards here for winning natural bodybuilding and natural physique championships, trying to set an example for what can be accomplished on a completely plant-based diet.
Okay, so let's go over a couple of things. Now said, I know about them. We'll go back to the omegas, but what omega source contains all 6 plant-based, of course?
The cool thing is you don't really need all 6 to be consumed. All you need is the top 2 to 3 to be consumed, because the body will do the rest of the conversion. Now, the big thing was, remember, most of the science said we didn't convert those top ones well. It's because conversion only accounts for about 20% of the change. Metabolism, which happens in the flesh, in the tissues, actually is about 80% of the conversion. So we were measuring the wrong thing, and we were making assumptions in science saying those don't convert very well. Well, they don't need to convert in the bloodstream. That is an enzymatic conversion. What we need to focus on is just providing sufficient quantities of the top 2, ALA and SDA. Now, if we can get good sufficient amounts of ALA and SDA, all of the rest of the omega-3s will be covered. Remember the downward progression. It goes from ALA to SDA, then ETA, EPA, DPA, and then DHA. DHA is in the bottom. So it's the least important out of all of the omega-3s, because everything else can convert down to it. Everything can, depending on our body's needs. Now, why is DHA at the bottom? Well, DHA is needed for the brain, so the body uses it as a catch-all because it wants to protect the brain foremost all. So everything can down convert to DHA, but if you take DHA, you're not getting any of the rest because it cannot back convert. It's called, in science, it's called retroconversion. And the study, if you want to look it up, is just type in retroconversion omega-3s, and you'll probably find that research study that shows it is unidirectional, which means the conversion only happens in one direction. Everything from the top converts down to everything else at the bottom, but the bottom do not convert upwards towards anything in the top. So what we need to focus is the top, and ALA is the top one. So as long as you're getting sufficient ALA and SDA, and that's why I brought ahi flower to market, because it's the highest in ALA and SDA of any plant known, period. And that is a scientific fact. You can look it up yourself.
Okay, that's awesome. And Richard Hubbard. Hi, Richard. Hello to
Hey,
you,
Richard,
Geoff.
good
Glad you're
to see you.
here, Richard. He was on recently too. So that's wow. This is a lot of information.
It is, and it's sciencey, but I hope I translated it in simple enough terms that most of you can get it because I'm a science geek. I was a biopsych major, looking at how our total physiology affects our mood and behavior. So it was a burgeoning form of psychology back in the 1980s when I was in college. And I got into studying sciences. I actually dropped out of college and never finished my degree because I kept asking questions my professors didn't have because they were teaching textbooks that were 2 to 3 years old. Well, the science is now. It's constantly changing. I mean, just in the last year, we went from the understanding of the microbiome that fiber isn't digested at all to fiber is digested only in the colon to now we know just in a study 2 weeks ago, published 2 weeks ago, that fiber is actually digested in the upper GI. Most of the, I'm sorry to say, even the vegan doctors aren't aware of this study. And it's okay. Look, there's tens of thousands of studies being released all the time. Not everybody can catch them. But that's where you come important, sharing this information once you get it. I try to go out there and comb through the research, find the valuable research that applies especially to health and nutrition, and try to bring it into market and show why a plant-based diet is so much more important. Now, what they found in this study is that fiber digests in the upper GI, which they thought was not possible. And that's because once you change your diet again, as you shift your diet, your microbiome changes. And the number and quality of that bacteria that are in your gut that support change. Just in a single meal, one meal, you can change your microbiome by a few percent. One meal. That's how fast that microbiome can shift. And that's why it's important. It's not an all or nothing proposition. The more plants you eat, the more you're going to improve health, the more you're going to improve your microbiome. And the more whole food plants, especially, that you consume is going to be helpful. There was an interesting study that I read that looked at leukocytosis. Leukocytes are white blood cells. There are, for those of you who are true scientists out there, forgive me for my dumbing down of this a little bit, but I'm trying to make it simple for everybody to understand. But leukocytes are like our garbage men. If there are a lot of leukocytes in our bloodstream, it means there's a lot of garbage in our bloodstream. So they looked at our diet when we consume a standard American diet, when we consume a standard American diet with lots of plants, so like salads along with a steak, and then when we consumed a whole food plant-based diet. So when they looked at the leukocyte count in the bloodstream and found that those on the plant-based diet had a really low leukocyte count. It's funny when I hear people say, "Oh, I've been vegan for a while, and my doctor says my white blood cell count is too low." I'm like, "What? That's a good thing." Now, white blood cells have a place. You want a healthy white blood cell reaction to disease, to inflammation, to parasites, viruses, bacteria. Yes, you want a lot of white blood cells when those things happen. But when you're healthy, those white blood cells should come down dramatically. And that's what it's showing, is because there's not anything for your white blood cells to clean up. So when I hear people say, "Oh, my white blood cell's too low," I'm like, seriously? No, that's like saying I'm too healthy. No, that's not how it works. But doctors were so, and I don't fault the doctors for not understanding. They were given, this is what a healthy person's white blood cell count. But they were looking at standard American diet. And that was better than somebody who was full on disease state. So they assumed, okay, if you're in that range, that's good. If you're in this range, that's probably too low. That's the assumption that they were making that was wrong. We now know when you clean up your diet and you eat mostly a whole food plant-based diet or high in antioxidants and polyphenols and chlorophyll of the plants, that lowers your blood cell. So the study showed, okay, what about when you eat a mostly animal-based diet? Well, the leukocytes were off the chart. The body was attacking all this garbage that was in the bloodstream. So they said, okay, well then when you combine, a salad with a small piece of meat, it should be somewhere right in the middle. Wrong. This was the surprising part. They found it was still very low. Not as low as a whole food plant-based diet, but still pretty low. Why wasn't it in the middle? Because the power of the antioxidants in the plants overcame the negative effects of the animal products. That's how powerful plants are. And that's why it's important for those who only feel like they can take small steps. Don't feel it has to be an all or nothing equation. Hey, would I like you to jump to veganism in one day like I did? Absolutely, 100%. Am I cheering you on to do so? Yes. Am I here to tell you it's good? Yes. But if for social reasons or whatever reasons you can only make or feel you can only make small changes, know that they're going to be helpful to you. Know that it will have a significant impact on your health. So eating more fruits and vegetables, eating more plants, eating more whole food, definitely better. Eating more raw, even better.
That's incredible. So basically, if you eat a whole foods plant based diet, you'll be happier,
Yes.
healthier,
Yes.
and you can, as has been proven, potentially avoid the major things that kill humans.
Most of the disease states, yes.
Yep.
Now, there are definitely genetics.
Right.
Genetics, by most research, accounts for anywhere from 3 to 5% of that. So there are genetic reasons for certain disease states, for sure. But if 3% of cancers are caused by genetics, that means 97% are caused by something else.
Right.
And a plant-based diet and exercise. Here's another thing I'll leave you with exercise, because I'm all about fitness. When looking at the microbiome, an interesting thing happens. When you exercise, you are actually supporting your microbiome. We see dramatic shifts in people's microbiome, not by changing their diet at all, but by simply changing their exercise. So why is that? Okay, so the number one bacteria that lives in our guts is called lactobacillus. Lactobacillus does not mean lacto meaning milk, it means lacto meaning lactic acid. That's what it consumes. So when you work out, have you ever felt the burn? Yes, from a good workout? Well, that is actually the buildup of lactic acid, and that acid is feeling like a burn in your muscles because that lactic acid is actually coming up against your tissues and feeling that burning sensation. So when we exercise, we produce lactic acid as a waste byproduct. So our body shuttles some of that lactic acid to our gut, drops it into our intestinal tract, and guess who eats that? Lactobacillus comes and munches on that lactic acid that we just produced. And then it says, thank you for feeding me. And it poops out some nice metabolites that that support fiber eating bacteria. Now, if you're on a plant-based diet and you're feeding that that fiber munching bacteria, they produce what's called butyrates. There's short chain fatty acids from it. They break down the fiber into a short chain fatty acid called butyrate. Now, butyrates are anti-inflammatory. So they go and push these anti-inflammatory butyrates and reduce the inflammation that we just caused from working out. See that beautiful cycle? We work out, we produce lactic acid, feeds the lactobacillus bacteria. They say thanks. I'll support the guys that will produce some butyrates for you to reduce your inflammation and make you recover and feel better and heal and repair faster. It's a beautiful relationship. All you need to do is remember to include the workouts and include the fiber. And that's why a plant-based diet and exercise go together so well. It completes this beautiful circle of exercise feeding our gut producing anti-inflammatory that helps us heal and repair. It's a beautiful cycle if we just feed these gut bacteria what they want. one, those lactobacillus, the number one most popular, feeds on our exercise. The more you exercise, the more you boost the most prevalent bacteria in the gut. And the more you eat plants, the more that fiber gets consumed by fiber eating, producing the butyrates, which reduce our inflammation. Now, a cool thing about butyrates is that our body actually uses butyrates to bring down inflammation, right? So our body actually takes these butyrates and stores them in our lungs, all around our lung tissue. Now, why would they do that? Because our lungs is one of the very first places that gets affected by external pathogens, bacteria and viruses, including COVID-19. So anywhere you see our tissues like nose, mouth, stomach come in contact with bacteria, you'll see a lot of microbes there delivering anti-inflammatory. Why? Okay, so there are two parts of the immune response system. The first is called the innate immune response. So it sends cytokines. Cytokines go out there and try to destroy the bacteria or the parasite or the virus. So when you breathe in COVID-19, your body says, send them there. So those cytokines go and start attacking that virus, right? And what it does is help destroy them. Then it actually takes pieces of that virus, sticks it to its outside, and then brings it over to the innate immune system that says, okay, now that you've caused all that destruction, right? It's in a battle with them. There's a war. There's dead bodies everywhere. That causes inflammation, right? That inflammation can cause fluid. And this is what's killing a lot of people from COVID-19 is basically pneumonia or sepsis, which is our body is causing such an inflammatory state, our lungs are filling up with water and we're basically drowning in our own fluid. We can't breathe. And that's what's happening. That is one of the major causes of the attack on it is our own body's innate immune response causing the damage that actually kills us. The problem is our body is in an unhealthy state and is not doing the adaptive immune response. So the innate immune response goes in and kills it, causes a whole bunch of damage and inflammation. Now we need an adaptive, allow our body to adapt to all that inflammation by bringing that inflammation down so that doesn't harm us and doesn't end up in our own killing us. Well, why? That's why our body is storing these butyrates right around our lungs. Butyrates reduce inflammation. That's why vitamin C is so important. Vitamin C only found in plants, remember? Animals have zero vitamin C. So vitamin C is also stored there. Why? Because vitamin C reduces the inflammation. These are the important parts. Omega-3s reduce the inflammation. Butyrates reduce the inflammation. This is called the adaptive response. When we have a healthy adaptive response of bringing that inflammation down after our body has gone in there and destroyed the bacteria, that's what causes it. Vitamin D3 really important too. And if you want to check out, I've got a whole explanation of why vitamin D3 is important for the healthy immune response. But that's why it is. So eating a higher plant-based diet will result in more of these anti-inflammatory vitamin C and butyrates that can help us possibly and potentially survive an attack with COVID-19. So this is, again, another reason why it's so important to switch as much as possible or consume at least as much as possible of a whole foods plant-based diet.
Especially, I'm really glad that you brought up and brought in COVID into it and the fact that, I mean, just everyone knows, just because you're vegan or whole food plant based does not mean that you can't get really sick or die from COVID. We're not immune to diseases or viruses or bacterial infections or anything like that. The hope, based on what you're saying, is if you feed your body well and you exercise, take care of it, and you have all these things in place, is that if you do get infected with a virus or bacterial infection or get sick, is that you'll have a better means, your body will have a better means of fighting it and living through it. It doesn't mean you want to have long haul issues, because I know a very healthy vegan whole food person, raw gluten free person who as long haul issues, right? Got very sick from COVID, and the more junk food, veganish husband just kind of went through it and got better very quickly. So you just don't know. But is it
Right,
a
correct.
good thing to take care of your body? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Because you
totally.
don't know. You have that element of what if? Well, whole foods,
Right.
plant based, exercise, get your fiber and your everything that you need, and be as healthy as possible to the best that you
Right.
can, the best of your
There are
ability.
there are no absolutes anywhere,
Yep.
especially when we're talking about this. No, stress alone can reduce our immune system to the point where
Sure.
you can become far more susceptible to not only taking on the disease but surviving the virus. But you want to do all the things possible. Most people want to do all the things possible to give them the best opportunity. And now that we understand what goes into that, so vitamin D3, real quickly, vitamin D3, we know, right, through science, is an important plays an important role in producing a um, a chemical called cathelicidin. Cathelicidin. Okay,
Expressive.
cathelicidin is a really cool. I hope some of you who are very interested at least look up cathelicidin. D3 is shown to greatly increase cathelicidin production. Cathelicidin has a whole series of effects. It can attach to the virus to keep it from binding to our sites. The spikes on it are required to it. The cathelicidin can actually stop those spikes from being able to combine it. Once the spikes are combined to our cell tissues, they can go into the tissues and then steal the replication. Cathelicidin can go inside the virus and disrupt its mRNA, which is how the vaccines are working right now, mRNA disruption. So we have cathelicidin. Our body does exactly what, well, not exactly, I won't say that, but does. The vaccines are developed basically on what cathelicidin, what our own body's production of natural immunoglobulins do. And cathelicidin is one of the key ones. It can stop it from replicating. Replication, once the virus gets in it, is what causes, for a lot of people, what causes it go from bad to worse to potentially dying from it. It can cause the spread. Cathelicidin can go to other organs, attaching to the heart and causing heart attacks, attaching to the kidneys and liver and causing failure there. So it's not just a lung disease. It can go spread throughout the body. So it does a whole host of it. Look, check it out. The research is there. There's literally now hundreds of D3 published articles about its relationship to cathelicidin. But what else upregulates cathelicidin besides D3? Butyrates. And what are produced? Fiber. Consuming fiber increases butyrates, and butyrates and D3 work hand in hand to upregulate cathelicidin. Cathelicidin can kill that. They did an interesting study. They took cathelicidin and they put it on a swab, basically, um, and swabbed the nose and introduced a virus, a non-harmful virus, wiped it out, rhinovirus. Now, it's not the same as a spike virus, but they found that the cathelicidin works with what's called enveloped viruses. COVID-19 is an enveloped virus. It's a very specific type of virus. Not only is it spiked, but it's enveloped. The cathelicidin eats away and dissolves the outside envelope. Then it binds to the spikes to prevent it from binding. Then it actually attacks the virus to kill it. Then it actually can go inside the virus to stop it from replicating or duplicating. Then it actually can break down the virus into pieces. Now, what our immune system does is take some of those pieces and attach it to beta cells, C cells, T cells, and that gives our body, it says, okay, there's the instructional DNA, a piece of that. Most of the vaccines that were developed prior to the mRNA vaccines that are doing it did it by taking the virus, like polio, and destroying it, breaking it up, and introducing that dead virus or broken up virus to the body. The body then takes those pieces, genetically looks at it, and says, okay, how do I kill it? And then how do I kill it if it comes back into my body again? That's how vaccines usually work. mRNA vaccines work in a different level, but most of the previous vaccines were based on just taking parts. That's exactly what our body does in a healthy immune response. It kills that virus, takes its pieces apart, sticks the pieces to different immunoglobulins, and takes it over. So it writes the code on how directions, how to kill this in the future. That's immunity, basically, in action. Now it knows, okay, if I ever see that genetic sequence again, I know this is how to kill it, and this is what I do, and that's why we can get immunity. Because as soon as that pathogen is reintroduced to our body sends up that instruction. We already have the map, right? We have the defense plans. We've broken in, we stole their secrets, and now our body knows how to kill that particular virus. Good thing about COVID-19 is that it's very slow to evolve. It can mutate slightly, but it still stays a basic spiked and enveloped virus, which our body, yes, fingers crossed that stays that way, because COVID-19 has a high spread but a lower lethality. Now, something like H1N1, which had a very low spread but had a real high 40% death rate. If our death rate on COVID, arguably it's all over the place, but a few percent. Um, Imagine if we had millions of people and 40% of them getting the virus and 40% dying. The world would see deaths like the Black Plague. So let's hope it never mutates to that point. But fortunately, COVID virus mutates at a very slow rate. So hopefully with the vaccines, with proper social distancing, mask wearing, these things can get this virus under control. And of course, proper health and nutrition. It plays a role. It plays a direct role. That D3, that butyrate do upregulate the cathelicidin, which destroys this virus.
It's an excellent point, and you think about why they say people who are at higher risk are the people with pre-existing conditions,
Yes,
smoking,
yes,
obesity.
yes,
These are all factors of high blood pressure, heart disease,
yes.
cancers. I mean, some people have cancer, but their body is just because they have cancer doesn't mean they're obese or they have any other issues. They just have that pre-existing condition where their immune system is lowered because they've had cancer or they're currently going through it. But you make a really valid point that the healthier you keep your body, the better fighting chance you have against when something like a pandemic happens in our society. And you want to take care of yourself and do that because you don't want to get this. I have enough people in my life that have had this virus. I don't want it. You don't want it. You just, the risk alone. You just don't. There's that rolling of the dice. There are just people who are healthy. Well, healthy, right? We don't know, but presumed healthy that are dying. And that could be
Yes.
because their diet is a meat laden diet, but they run marathons. You don't know. Or bodybuilder. Well, bodybuilders don't have necessarily the best diet, so it's not a fair equation. But that's an excellent point. I mean, we've gone over like an hour, but Marvin. Well, Christine says hello, so hello, Christine. And Marvin has asked, "How do you start an exercise program?" Which could be another hour talk. So, I mean, if you want to address that briefly.
Sure, there are lots of good programs. Just make sure that there's one tapered to your physical fitness level and your age and your gender, so that it's appropriate. Start out light and don't overdo it, and you'll get the best results that way. Include a healthful plant-based diet, and you will improve your recovery times too. Look, I'm 58, and if I can win a bodybuilding championship, it's on being a 35-year vegan. Anybody can, but you do need to allow your body to adapt. A muscle building is an adaptation process. So when you stress the muscle, it releases these really cool things called heat shock proteins, which would be a whole nother story of science if you ever want to get into it. But I wrote a white paper and a book on heat shock proteins. So when you stimulate the body to release these heat shock proteins, they go in and start repairing the tissues and actually start pulling in more tissues. So you have to allow that adaptation process, proper rest, proper hydration, proper recovery time. And the older you are or the less experienced you are, the more time you have to allow for proper recovery. Because if you go back into the gym and start working out when you're still feeling really sore, you're actually going to end up doing more damage and take longer to get to that place. So be smart, lift smart, always lift with the weights that are within your reach or realm, and go up gradually. Remember that muscle tissue adapts faster than joint tissue, tendons and joints. So even if you are a expert, one of the biggest things I see with bodybuilders is they forget that. And they feel their muscles adapting to, oh, I can put another plate on. I can put another plate on. And then pop, there goes a tendon, because they didn't allow their body to fully adapt enough. Here they are lifting 300 pounds and they move to 320 pounds, pop. And now you're set back for months, if not permanently. So don't lift with your ego. Put together a sensible program that allows you step-by-step incrementals. Stay with it, enjoy the process, and you'll get the best results and stay safe without injury.
And the other piece of advice is please talk to a medical professional. Go get a physical and talk to your doctor before you start any exercise program to make sure that you do not harm yourself and you do what's best for you. So as we don't know your fitness level, your physical,
Correct.
we don't know that. So just be smart and get checked out, and then just start walking. If you
Yes.
can walk, I mean, just go for a walk and build up from there. Because I mean, walking alone is incredibly healthy if you have the knees and the joints that you can handle walking, even whatever it is, half mile. Just start somewhere and just
Yeah.
move. Just get up and
Yeah.
move.
There are
Dance,
so
clean
many
your
times.
house. I mean, there's you have to clean your house. Clean your house. It's a great form of exercise. You'd be amazed. You burn a lot of calories cleaning your house. So
Try to incorporate something that's fun or enjoyable to you so you stay with
yep,
it too. Because
exactly.
adaptation works on consistency. So I have three things. First is intensity, which is how much you put into it, you'll get out, but be smart about that. Don't go too intense that your body can't handle it or can't recover in proper time. Intensity, then consistency, right? So you need to be consistent. If you do one thing one time, the body will say, okay, that's cool. We'll recover from that. If you keep doing it, the body will say, okay, let me change so that you can handle that weight more often. And that's when the adaptation really starts. It's consistency. The more you're consistent, the more you're going to get better results. Improvements in strength, improvements of fitness, improvements in body composition. And then the third is nutrient density. Find the most nutrient rich foods you can and make them at least the cornerstone, if not the basis of your plant based diet. So, foods that are high in nutrients are your berries, especially your dark greens, your beans for fiber and protein, and your grains, whole grains. Get as much of these in their whole natural state as possible and focus on nutrient density. The highest nutrient rich foods are berries and dark greens. So try to include those some of your day. Obviously, if you do a dark green, clean green protein, you'll be getting your protein, your fiber, and throw in some berries, like some frozen strawberries and blueberries. And it's a great way to start your day.
Well, thank you. So if people want to get in touch with you, Geoff, how do they do it? They want to buy Clean Machine. Virtual Vegfest will have an affiliate link that will go up onto our website very soon. But for now, how do people find out more?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, Clean Machine Online. For those of you who are watching now or in the month of January 2021, we do have a promotion going on for all of January 2021, which is buy one, get one 58% off, celebrating my 58th birthday, which is in 2 days, 3 days.
Yay!
So that's cleanmachineonline.com. And you can check us out on Facebook and Instagram at Clean Machine Fit. And then you can follow me. I publish new studies that come up all the time and talk about them. And I do Facebook Lives too on my personal page. So you can see that at Geoff Palmer. The spelling is up on the screen there for you. It's Geoff Palmer, Palmer. And you can follow me on Facebook there. Always posting the latest research, latest thoughts on research, and all of the latest new developments in plants, the plant-based kingdom, discoveries of new plants, their health benefits, and how they can improve your health and happiness. Thank you.
Well, again, I mean, I'll wish it to you in a couple of days, but happy early birthday. And thank you for joining us and being a part of this and giving everyone probably the coolest science lesson that they can get because it's interesting and informative and important.
And hopefully it turns into health for many of the people out there. My goal is to really give back and help improve your health in ways I can. So I hope some of this information is useful and that you translate it into healthier, more fit, higher nutrition lifestyle that gives you lots of beneficial rewards throughout your whole life.
Well, Marvin just said thanks. That was great. Thank you for joining us, Marvin. I really appreciate it. And hopefully you can get some help with your exercise plan. When start today. Don't put it off. Start today. Just go for a walk. Even if it's inside your house, walk up and down or all over. You can get a lot of steps inside your house. You'd be absolutely amazed if you just walk around your house. So, Geoff, thank you. I really appreciate you being a part of this. And I look forward to hopefully maybe seeing you at an event this year.
Yes.
Maybe. Well, I'm going to do events this year. I just don't know when they will actually happen, the outdoor events. So I just need the world to get cleaned up a little bit in the meantime. But have a great rest of your Saturday.
Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye,
Pleasure.
Geoff.
Bye.
Well, everyone, thank you once again for joining Virtual Vegfest Live. I really appreciate your watching and sharing and shopping on virtualvegfest.com. Our vendors really appreciate it. And again, thanks to Gain for being our sponsor of our lives this week. Now, what's really important is if you go out to please wear a mask. Wear your mask over your nose, under your chin. Really, really important. Don't wear it like this. Why? Because your nose is connected to your lungs. And if you don't cover your nose, you're not doing it. You're not going to avoid this virus. It's really important. And the other thing is, newest information, which isn't really that new, is your mask. If you're going to be around any people, a grocery store, indoors, you need a better mask. Cloth masks are great. Multi-layer masks, even better. Oh, thank you, Christine. Multi-layer masks, even better. But an N95 mask that covers you securely, tightly, where no air, no virus can get in. If you're with the virus being as contagious as it is, the one that came from the UK and South Africa, it's here in this country. Please invest in an N95 mask. Doshi.shop is selling 10 packs of them for under $3 a mask. Go buy them and have them for those moments where you're going to be exposed to people more than you anticipate. So that's my best advice to you in regards to masks today. And if you have the means, please go and buy some vegan food at your local restaurants. Do curbside pickup, delivery, whatever you have to do. If you have the means, support our restaurants because we want them to be there when we can go eat in a restaurant again. Highly don't recommend eating in a restaurant right now. So please do curbside pickup, support them so they can survive this pandemic because you can shop and have stuff shipped to you, but with food, with our restaurants, with our food vendors, they need our support. So let's continue to do that. Next week, we have 2 talks. On Thursday, we have a cooking demo with Karen Dugan. Yay, love cooking demos, always influences what I'll eat that night. And then on Saturday, Ramona Cadogan. She's an Olympic athlete. is going to come on to talk about her journey to the Olympics as she's a lifter. So, and she's got a fundraiser going on. So if you are inspired to support an athlete who needs to get to the Olympics, you definitely want to watch both talks at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a great rest of your weekend. Subscribe, Virtual Vegfest on YouTube, Plant-Based Network on YouTube, Rafflecopter to win prizes. Love giving stuff away, and I want you to win. You have the whole month to enter, so go enter right now. Have a great weekend. We will see you next week. Bye.